And as you saw this morning, the school systems actually, some of them provide bus services. And that's a wonderful service for the parents because their child is picked up at their house, delivered to the center. The buses will return this afternoon and take the children back home.
And I think the other great thing about that too is that's just something that most kids look forward to, is being big enough to ride the school bus. It's a big deal, isn't it?
It is a big deal. We have a young man here who was injured in a car accident, and he's actually on a respirator. And when that school bus pulls up, he doesn't speak, but his little face lights up because he's so excited about getting to ride the school bus.
How are you funded here at CCAF?
We're funded by several sources. We're funded in part by the United Ways, and we are funded by 6 United Ways, the United Way of Hall County being one of them. We're also funded by donations. We are so blessed by the generosity of individuals and foundations and businesses in this community, and they support us with their gifts. We hold fundraising events throughout the year. Festival of Trees, we sell Christmas cards, we have a Rock in the Spring concert over at Brenau. So many different fundraising events, and those bring in money. And then we also charge tuition to the children, but it's on a sliding scale on their ability to pay.
Certainly we've seen the Festival of Trees cards and the sweatshirts of the children's hands over the years, so it's just, it is great to see what is going on here and how it goes out into the community.
Well, I think our board of directors and our volunteers really know how to put the fun in fundraising, so whatever we're doing, we always have a good time, whether we're at a black tie fair for the Festival of Trees, or we're running a 5K all over town, or whether we're grooving to Midlife Crisis Band, that's our local band in the spring. We have fun.
There's a lot of talk here in your marketing materials about early intervention. I want you to explain to our viewers, first of all, what is early intervention and why is that so important?
Well, what we found is the sooner that a child is diagnosed with a weakness or a disability and they receive services, the better the outcome is going to be. So that's why we start as early as 6 weeks. Now, some disabilities aren't diagnosed that soon, but the sooner the child receives services and begins receiving therapy and early intervention, and that can be anything from adaptive teaching methods and materials to actually receiving a type of physical, occupational, or speech therapy. Once they start getting those services earlier, the outcome for them as an adult is so much better. And for children that might have a developmental delay, if they get those services early enough that by the time they get to public school, you may not see a delay at all.
Now, the parents, we talked with some of the parents earlier, we heard from the parents, I should say, and just in the very short interviews that we did, several of the different disabilities were discussed. Tell us about the children who come to school here.
Well, we're called Challenged Child and Friends. The challenged child is, of course, children with special needs, and that can be anything from autism to Williams syndrome. We see children that are born with a disability. We see children that are in an accident, such as a fire or a car wreck, and they're left with a disability. We see children that maybe get very sick and run a high fever, and as a result are left with a hearing loss. Or maybe a child develops a severe allergy, like a peanut allergy. Anything that would keep them from being served in a regular preschool setting, we're able to provide for. And one of the reasons why we're able to provide for them is because we have nurses, and we are never open without having our nurses here. We have an RN and an LPN, and they can do anything from insulin injections to breathing treatments. The and friends part refers to children that are developing typically. And so when you walk around the halls, you'll see children, and you'll say, I'm not sure if this child has a special needs or not, because not all special needs are visible and can be seen. And the cool thing about having children with special needs, going to school with children who are typical, is that the children that are struggling with a special need, they have great role models. And the children that are typical, they learn a kind of compassion for people that are different that you can't teach in a book.
You talk about some of the different disabilities. Autism is one that we hear on a regular basis. Tell us about some of the success that you're having here working with autistic children.
Remember when we talk about autism, that autism is on a spectrum. So you've got it from here to here. And at one end of the spectrum is going to be Asperger's. And that's very, very mild. And a child that's diagnosed with Asperger's will probably go on to public school or to private school. They may attend college. With therapy, they're going to lead a life that's going to easily be incorporated into the communal living. But at the other end of the spectrum, you may have children that do not speak, that do not feed themselves, that have no interaction with the world around them. All of that is autism. So when we try to talk about our treatment for autism and what we see, it's hard to describe because it's such a broad spectrum. We have a lot of success treating children with autism. Again, early intervention is so important. We offer a therapy here called therapeutic listening, where the children work through a series of CDs, and it helps them learn that they can hear sounds and still do things. Because so often when you are autistic, you think, I can only handle one sensory input at a time. So if you're hearing something, then you can't do anything with your hands, or you can't see with your eyes, you can't read, you can't color, you can't play with blocks. So by using our therapeutic listening program, we help the children to see I can still hear and do something else. We do a lot of work with art, and we do all kinds of sensory integration with our art program. We'll put grits in the finger paint, we'll glue feathers and cotton balls to get the children used to taking in the sensory input through their touch. And I could go on and talk about some of the success we've had with autism. You saw also music therapy, and that's another program that we've had a lot of success with autistic children. But each autistic child is going to be different depending where they fall on the spectrum. And we see each child have success, but each child's success is measured differently depending on how severe their autism is and just how much they're going to be able to grow.
You've said several times this morning talking about the different kinds of therapy. Actually went to talk to Lisa Short, who is your therapy services director, earlier about the kinds of therapy the children receive.
Here at Challenge Child and Friends, we have occupational, speech, and physical therapy services. And in these services, we have different protocols and programs that we implement. We have the therapeutic listening program, which is for our auditory defensive disorders. We have the brushing protocols, which are used for our tactile defensive disorders. We do sensory diets and sensory integration techniques. We do feeding and oral motor programs. We do augmentative communication programs, gait and balance retraining, and we even teach basic self-care and life skills to our children. Here at Challenge Child and Friends, we essentially have two different types of therapy services. We have our morning program services, during which time our children that are enrolled in our 8:30 to 12:30 program receive OT, PT, and speech as needed while they're here. And then we have our outpatient therapy services, during which time children that are not enrolled in our morning program come to our center as they're referred by their physicians, and they are able to receive OT, PT, and speech services. Typically, these children will receive 1 to 2 therapy sessions per week, depending on their specific diagnosis and their specific needs. I think that one of the most important advances that we've seen in the past few years for children with disabilities would be the better education of our teachers and our parents to begin to detect early signs of disorders and developmental delays. And with this early detection, we're able to diagnose earlier and implement earlier interventions to these children so that they can have better outcomes and better quality of life. Under the leadership of our new director, Dave Ernest, I feel that we'll be able to continue this mission of educating our parents and our teachers to better be able to detect these early signs for intervention needs. Dave has offered a really unique approach to his time here since he's been here in March, and he is able to go to each of the classrooms and visit with the children and really be hands-on with the marketing and the therapy aspect of it. His mission is to not just sit behind the desk, is to be involved with each of our different departments and make sure that he's seen and has an approach to everyone involved in our mission. The children's favorite toys, and probably the adults too, would be our indoor swings. As you see here in our center, we have many different types of swings. We have bolster swings, we have net swings, we have platform swings. And what's unique about our swings is that the adults and the teachers and therapists are actually able to get on these swings with the children. And this is important because some of our children need additional trunk support to be able to swing independently or to engage in an activity while they're swinging, or just to give that additional emotional support that some of those children need because of fear of movement, which a lot of our children have at our center. These swings offer many different things in our center as to calming of a child or just stimulating a child depending on the specific need and what we want that child to be able to do.